Hello and welcome. It is Wednesday, November 11th, 2020, and this is Truly News. I am your host, Jason Van Sickle. I hope that you're having a good day so far. We are already halfway through the week, so hopefully your week is going well. As you head into the day, to help increase your knowledge and expand your insights, let's begin with a review of today's news. As always, we start with a look at the top news from across the country, and here are the issues that are leading the news today. Reporters across the country have been reaching out to election officials trying to find some evidence that fraud occurred during the counting of the election votes. However, media outlets like the New York Times are reporting that no such evidence can be found. In the meantime, Trump presses on with his attempts to use claims of fraud as a way to overturn the election results in court. As Trump tries to cling to power, refusing to concede the election, Biden pushes forward with his transition as the president-elect. Calling Trump's refusal to concede a, quote, embarrassment, unquote, to Trump and the country, Biden continued to put together advisory panels for things like COVID. He also said that he would announce the members of his cabinet by Thanksgiving. In the meantime, support for Trump among Republicans continued. Secretary of State Pompeo flippantly told reporters on Wednesday that there would be a smooth transition to power in January, but the transition would be to Trump's second term in office. In other headlines, the Supreme Court seems increasingly unlikely to rule against Obamacare. As testimony continued in the case against the Affordable Care Act, Justice Roberts and Kavanaugh joined liberal skepticism about the case. They questioned why the act should be overturned if Congress already repealed key provisions. And that is your top news for today. Now, in our look beyond the top headlines, let's start with developments in the areas of science, technology, and space exploration. In science news, psychobiological research shows puberty can reset early childhood trauma. There is new research from the Institute of Child Development at the University of Minnesota that changes during puberty can reset problems that occurred due to stress during early childhood. Puberty can act like a reset for damaged stress responses. In technology news, the European Union files charges against Amazon in ongoing antitrust investigation. On Tuesday, the European Union brought new antitrust charges against Amazon, claiming the company used data from its sellers for competitive advantage. For over a year, the EU has investigated Amazon's dual role as a product seller and a marketplace for merchants. In space news, NASA scientists predict that Jupiter's moon Europa glows in the dark. An article in the journal Nature Astronomy reports that radiation emitted by Jupiter excites the icy surface of its moon Europa. That likely causes the surface to glow in the dark, which cannot be seen by telescopes since the dark side of Europa faces away from Earth. And that is your science, technology, and space news for today. Now, here is our announcer, Ron Johnson, with recommendations for social engagement.
Social engagement involves learning about your community, meeting people from the community, and working to make your community better. That is why volunteering is a great way to socially engage. It teaches you about the needs of your community, introduces you to other community members, and helps meet needs. So, consider taking the time to research the nonprofits in your area and volunteering. And that is today's recommendation for social engagement.
Thank you, Ron. We now return to today's news with a look at health, social, and environmental news. In health news, FDA issues E. coli warning as food supplier issues recall. The Food and Drug Administration has issued an alert regarding romaine lettuce that is potentially contaminated with E. coli. A California-based supplier has issued a recall for lettuce sold to Walmart and Food Lion in many of the states across the country. In social news, research shows that Trump used tweets to distract from critical media reports. Research published this week in the journal Nature Communications found that Trump used tweets during his presidency as a diversion tactic. His most common focus was on trying to shift focus away from media coverage when he found the coverage threatening. In environmental news, new study finds that climate change threatens insects. Researchers at Lund University in Sweden have released the results of their research, which found that rising temperatures due to climate change create a serious threat for insects. Hotter temperatures can affect reproduction and cause death due to overheating. And that is your health, social, and environmental news for today. Now it is time for our Words of Wisdom, brought to us by philosophy professor Albert Feinstein. And here is Dr. Feinstein.
Mahatma Gandhi once said, "The best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others." Here, Gandhi points out that we can learn about ourselves, our strengths, our character, and our heart through helping others. Not only can service to others provide personal insight, but it can also help us develop a better version of ourselves. And those are your words of wisdom for today. Until next time, keep seeking wisdom and believing in your incredible potential. Good luck.
Thank you, Dr. Feinstein. Now we take a look at economic and world news. In economic news, banks tighten lending standards and businesses seek fewer loans. Results of the Federal Reserve Senior Loan Officer Survey were released on Tuesday, and the Fed reported that banks have increased loan standards, making it more difficult to get loans. It also found that there was a low demand from businesses for loans last quarter. In world news, the European Union to address online hate speech. In a statement on Tuesday, the European Union Commission chief said that the EU would be working on plans to deal with, quote, illegal hate speech and terrorist propaganda, unquote. This comes after last month saw extremists kill 8 people in Paris, Nice, and Vienna. And that is your economic and world news for today. In entertainment news, today's new movie is Emily and the Magical Journey. This movie is about Emily who wants to help her mother find happiness after the loss of Emily's father. It is a journey that takes her to a magical world. Emily and the Magical Journey is now available to rent. In newly released shows, today's show is A Teacher. In this series, starring Kate Mara, a young high school teacher in Texas finds herself getting involved with one of her students. A Teacher is now showing on Hulu. Finally, in newly published books, today's book is Burnout by Emily and Amelia Nagasaki. This book helps women understand why they deal with stress differently than men and provides science-based methods for dealing with stress. The book is presently number 2 on the New York Times Advice and How-To bestseller list. And that is your entertainment news for today. As always, we end our podcast with Hope for Humanity, stories about the goodness and kindness that people show each other every day. And here is today's story. A 101st birthday and some advice on life. In a story from Royal Oak, Michigan, Helen Brandis recently celebrated her 101st birthday. As she reflected back on her life, she had one thing that stood out and one piece of advice that she wanted to give people. She remembers always trying to be nice to people and people doing the same to her. And she sees kindness as one of the most important things in life. And that is your news for November 11th, 2020. Have a wonderful day.